The Mom Who Knows Nada. My name is Brianna, and this is the Mom Who Knows Nada podcast. I'm so excited for this conversation. Just to preface it a bit, I'm in Florida Saturday when we're recording this, and it's Sunday morning for my dear friend Laura in New Zealand. So this has taken a couple weeks to organize, and I'm super pumped to get her perspective on a lot of cool shit like home births, potty training, plant-based lifestyle. Mind blown. Backstory, Laura was a server with me at True Food Kitchen in Denver. Our lives have gone haywire. Laura's story and how rad that is. And I'm just super pumped that we could actually get this together. So Laura, thank you so much for making this happen. And I have a little one and a partner, and you can't tell by her beautiful face, but she's got another one on the way. So here we are. I'm going to ask you, well, let's get into your backstory. So when I left True Food Kitchen, you left True Food Kitchen. We kind of departed there at the same time. You went on this crazy journey, and you were like a yogi in India, and then you went to New Zealand. So can you kind of tell us how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, of course. So it was not really my intention to come to New Zealand on this round of traveling. When I left Colorado, I was just intending to go do a yoga teacher training and then learn a bit of Thai massage in Thailand and kind of, have a travel around Asia and then come back to Colorado. But about 8 months into my traveling, I was like, nope, there's no way I'm going back. Want to keep going, want to keep seeing the world. And so I'd always wanted to go to New Zealand. Such a beautiful place, featured in Lord of the Rings and snowboarding movies. That's where I developed my love and desire to go to New Zealand. And then, as I was traveling, I learned about something called a working holiday visa, where you can come to New Zealand for a year and work on a visa and travel around. So thought that was great, could save up some more money and then go traveling again. So it was never my intention to be here long term. Just coming for a few months, see a bit of the country, make a bit of money, and then carry on. But 3.5 years later, one baby and one more on the way, and one husband later, here we are. Yeah.
That's so incredible. And it all started because you wanted to deepen your yoga practice and your worldly
I just wanted to travel, I've traveled around the States a lot. I've been to Central America, but I'd never left the continent, and there's just so much to see out there. So I just wanted to get amongst it, sink or swim. I went to India by myself for my first time traveling ever, which was really intense.
That's a big trip
in itself. But yeah, it was incredible.
Oh, well, we'll talk about that another day. So, what do you like about living in New Zealand?
Oh, there's so many things, to be honest. It's such a beautiful country. Vast beauty everywhere you go. But I'd say the things that have kept me here and inspired me to want to raise a family here. I feel so safe here. It feels like such a safe, pure place, and I have more medical insurance and support, and that means than I have had since I was 18 years old in the States. It's just as a foreigner in a foreign country, which is still hard to wrap my mind around. All of my pregnancy, my midwife, my home birth, all of my visits, everything's taken care of. You pretty much I pretty much had my first home birth for free. Wow. Everything except for a few fees for scans and my birth pool, and so
different
safety around having medical care and support in that way that I did not have in the States is one thing that makes me feel really comfortable here.
And your partner's from New Zealand, so does he have family there?
Yeah, so New Zealanders are called Kiwis, so my partner is Kiwi. We live on the South Island, and his family is on the North Island. So we see them semi-regularly.
That's nice. Do you miss anything about the States?
Oh, definitely. There's lots of things I miss. I mean, the States are beautiful place. Definitely miss my tribe of people the most. That is not something that I have really found here yet, that I, you know, took for granted until I didn't have it anymore. I really had like my family of friends back home in Colorado, and definitely miss that a lot. I also miss the food a lot, like, you know, nothing like good old American portion sizes.
You could feed you and both kids, you know, for
Yeah.
real. Like if they're, yeah,
Yeah,
for
and
real.
being plant-based, I did find easier in the States. There's just a lot more options as far as when you're doing your grocery shopping to when you go out to eat. There's just, yeah, especially in Denver. Yeah, just so many more options. But,
So let's talk about the plant-based a bit, because you're not saying vegan, you're not saying vegetarian. Can we
yeah.
discuss what like that means in terms of like diet,
Yeah.
pregnancy, and why that's important to you?
So before I got pregnant, I was vegan for probably 5 or 6 years.
I remember this.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess it's all kind of intertwined. I was vegetarian for most of my life, aside from that. And I had endometriosis, which also, you know, made me think I couldn't have kids, as I was told that I would need fertility treatment and if I wanted to go down that road. And I was always one to try to heal things naturally instead of trying to get one of the surgeries or trying to take painkillers or anything like that. So I just done a bit of research and read that a vegan diet can actually eliminate some of the inflammation that feeds into having endometriosis.
Interesting.
So that was why I made the switch. I mean, that's one of the reasons. Of course, there's environmental reasons and animal cruelty reasons, but that was like the main thing that made me make the switch. And it made a massive difference in the pain that I was experiencing on a monthly basis from the endometriosis flare-ups. So yeah, so that is why I went vegan. And then I have, you know, not been a super strict vegan since becoming pregnant. I think that you should listen to your body and eat what you're craving. I mean, you know, if it's French fries and potato chips and candy, maybe not feed into that completely, but yeah,
Just
for
a
like
couple
this
bites.
pregnancy and my pregnancy with Sage, I've eaten eggs. I do get those eggs from a local farmer, so I know that they're, you know, free range and cruelty free and happy chickens. But yeah, I'm definitely not as picky or as not picky, but as strict as I was with it for a long time.
I like that you said listen to your body. I think we get so caught up in ideals and like trying to put things in a box than by saying, because I don't like, I rarely eat red meat. And if I eat red meat, to your point, where is it from? Is it grass fed? Is it free range? And that's the meat I'll buy. However, when I was pregnant, I was like, I don't care. I'm just going to listen to what is the
Yeah.
baby telling me that it needs? And that's what I'm going to give to this future human. I think that's really important. You can't get omegas, like certain omegas, like omega 3s, omega 6s, whatever, from a lot of plants. You have to source them from like supplements or animals, like fish. So I think it's really, I love that you said that, like, pay attention to what your body is saying. I think that's really pivotal in general as a human being, but particularly as a mom.
Yeah.
Now, you also do you're on like a zero waste journey, which I think is super cool. And where I live in Florida, I feel like we could probably learn a few things. So, tell me what that's like in New Zealand. How do you minimize your carbon footprint and your waste?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's like little things that you can do as a part of your daily life. Like I don't use takeaway containers or takeaway coffee cups. I always have a keep cup. I mean, straws are not really a thing in most parts of the country that I'm in, but like, you know, opting out of having a straw is an easy one. I'm fortunate where I live that I don't have to use my car that often. We live in a pretty central area. We can walk to the grocery store, we can walk to the park, we can walk to the lake. So we do try to minimize our car usage as much as we can and take the bus when we can as well. Sage also hates the car, so it helps too. Not have to make her go in there. But yeah, just like being aware when you're going grocery shopping, and we try to use, you know, bulk bins and get foods from like the local shops instead of the bigger grocery stores. And my partner and I own a shampoo and conditioner bar company, so we don't use any plastic in our showers.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we're making bars, just a little side project. But yeah, that's an easy one. I guess with motherhood, like it has gotten harder to be as conscious when doing the grocery shop, because I'm just in a hurry and, you know, need to get everything and not be super picky about it.
Amen.
But trying to make up for that in other ways, we've done cloth nappies with Sage since she was 3 days old. Yeah, so that's a big one. It is a big, you know, it's a full-time job on its own doing cloth nappies, but it's something I feel about doing. Yeah.
Those are all incredible things. So do you ever buy like diaper bombs or anything like that in a product sense, or do you create it since you have that shampoo and conditioner kind of
I
background?
haven't actually made any balms for Sage, but my sister-in-law has made a really lovely one for us right around the time she was born, and we still use some of that. Fortunately, she's not been very rashy and hasn't needed much, so we don't really need much, but I haven't really outsourced any, aside from like the occasional prescribed one.
You know, that's interesting you say that. Declan never really had diaper rash either. And we use like a plant-based diaper for him. But I definitely did not go into like the cloth washable kind of thing. So I'm kind of interested. I'm going to kind of go on a tangent. I wonder sometimes if like what you feed and the garment around your child, if that could like cause more so than what they eat. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
everyone's like, you need to have all this diaper bomb, and I got all the diaper bombs, and like I never use them.
I mean, of course, every baby's going to be different, so it's hard to
Yeah.
say, but I definitely,
I like it.
yeah, in my kind of like group of mom friends that I've had, the ones that do use cloth haven't really had many problems with nappy rash, as long
No,
as
I
they're
never.
being washed appropriately. Yeah, I can't
Do you
say for sure, but
do you hand wash all of them? Did you?
no, definitely not.
Okay, good.
I mean,
Do you have to do anything different for like I don't know because I never.
yeah, there's actually pretty specific ways of washing them, because yeah, the pee can build up ammonia, which then can cause ammonia burns. So you do have to wash them in a pretty specific way. But luckily, the South Island of New Zealand, all of their energy is solar and hydro. So I don't, you know, I did question at one point when I was doing so much washing, like, is this actually better for the environment than using disposables? But since most of our energy comes from solar or hydro, it is, yeah, I feel really good about doing it. So
It the standard diaper like a Pampers Huggies takes 500 years to decompose, so you're totally better off. Which is a fun fact I didn't know until like
yeah,
no one ever says that it takes that long for diapers to decompose like a traditional one. If you have a plant-based one, it's less, but
yeah,
it's not great. It's not great.
yeah.
So
So that's
that's
one thing with like having a baby, that I'm like, okay, how can I go into motherhood without sacrificing, like, you know, my morals and, you know, wanting to do better for our kids in the future, and feel good about, yeah, feel good about every day, because, you know, there have been times where we've been traveling or she's been sick and we have used disposables, and I'm just like, wow, like imagining how many she would have used in her time until now if we weren't in cloth is like a bit overwhelming. But like, you know, everyone does their best, and even if you're just doing like a couple of cloth nappies a day, it really can make a difference.
No, I
Sorry, we
love
say
it.
nappies over here, not diapers, so I hope that's not causing
My husband,
any
you never got
confusion.
to meet Dominic, I don't think, but he's British, so nappies
Yeah.
are very much a part of were very much a part of our vocabulary too. So I love it. I love and the mum thing, like it's not
Yeah.
mom, it's mum.
No,
Dad's
affectionately
the
put that
same,
on. Yeah.
yeah, but then it's mummy and mum, and so like
Yeah.
when he
Um,
refers to me, it's like it's kind of cute to keep that alive, especially
yeah.
because he hasn't been home in 2 years now. So
Yeah.
it's been, we won't get into pandemic stuff right this minute, but it's been tough for him, for my husband, for sure, with nuances with raising a child. It's very different in the States than it is in the UK.
Yeah.
Now, I want to kind of go back to the endometriosis diagnosis because I think that's really important. When I was working at True Food,
Mhm.
and a few years before I got there, I had blood clots, and I was told that I couldn't have a kid, blah blah. I have to have surrogate, hormones, blah blah, all the things. Like, why couldn't it be on hormones to have a kid? And so here comes my son. Like, he was not expected. Let's be real. So I like that you brought that up because I think it's really important. I'm not saying every woman's situation is the same. It's obviously very different. But I remember you working and having the worst days and being in so much pain, like where you have to step off the floor, have someone cover your tables. Like, there were definitely a couple times I think you had to call out of work because, like, your all the lady stuff was just not agreeing with you, and I don't think people in general who don't have endometriosis understand the ramifications, but also the fact that here you are expecting your second child without any intervention. I would just love for you to speak about your experience regarding that to whatever degree you're comfortable.
Yeah, of course. My journey with endometriosis was quite a long one. I had it for about 10 years. I was diagnosed when I was about 15. And I don't know this for sure, but I took birth control from a really young age because I just had, my cycle was all over the place. And as a way of trying to get it in control, I was put on the pill when I was quite young. And yeah, I didn't have any of the symptoms before then, aside from having just like all over the place periods. I didn't have nearly the amount of pain that I did. This said birth control got recalled. I stopped taking it, and then I started getting all of these symptoms. So I don't know for sure if it's related to that, but that's kind of always been my thoughts around it. And yeah, it pretty much ruled my life for about 10 years there. Just, that time of the month would come and I was pretty much useless. I couldn't do anything and I was just in so much pain. And yeah, the only things that would really help were a hot bath and lots of CBD, and which was, easily accessible in Colorado.
Totally.
And then, yeah, when I made the diet change, like that also had an impact. But yeah, I was told that it would be, not impossible, but pretty hard for me to conceive. I would probably need fertility treatments. It wasn't super likely that I would be able to conceive, which is actually quite a dangerous thing to tell women. Like, since I've had Sage and shared my experience with some other women, like you were told you couldn't conceive, like, you kind of get in a place where you don't feel like you need to be super safe. And yeah, so it was,
Don't.
Sage was not planned either. She was an amazing little miracle surprise. We would have tried the fertility treatment probably a few years down the road. But yeah, and since like having Sage, it's so crazy. Like, up until the moment that, I birthed her, like, I didn't really trust my body through the whole pregnancy. Up until when I was in labor, I'm like, we're gonna die, we're not like there's no way that my body is gonna be able to, birth a baby.
Yeah.
Hopefully something's gonna go wrong, just because I had such a disconnect with my body from having endometriosis for so long. That, yeah, I was just in disbelief that I could actually do it. But since having Sage, like, my period came back quite early, like 3 months postpartum. But yeah, it's like pretty much gone. Seems like it's been totally wiped out from some of the research
Interesting.
I've done around endometriosis. It can be really hard to conceive, but pregnancy can actually be like really, really healing for that problem. And yeah, I still had uncomfortable periods, but it was nothing to the degree of what it was before having her. So yeah,
That's
it's amazing how
crazy.
birth can kind of heal you in a sense. So I'm super grateful for that. Get a cute baby and healed of this terrible, painful problem that
Thing.
I've had for years. So
Well, it's also interesting too that hormonal shift, like almost back to like a natural, organic place, has realigned you. Like again, we're not doctors here. We're not. We don't know, but it's an interesting thing to think about. Like, and to your point on when you're diagnosed with something, like I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, and which basically means there's tons of cysts in my ovaries, which makes it near very difficult to conceive naturally.
yeah.
And I have friends that have it, and one of my dearest friends had to go on fertility treatments, and as soon as she went off her fertility treatments, she got pregnant with her first and then didn't have a problem with her second. So it was a beautiful thing. But it's really interesting how these things like pop up, but the moment you leave it to nature or you just don't think about it, you don't put that energy into it. It's like this beautiful little gift that you get. And I look at my son all the time as a beautiful gift. Like I didn't want to be a mom. That was not my thing. I did not want to have kids. I wouldn't change Declan for the world. There's no way. God, he's taught me so much. But at the same time, you're just like, oh, I spent all of this energy invested in this one situation that really I didn't need to fret about. And gosh, and then, I mean, we can talk about fear-based pregnancy in a second when we talk about your home birth, and you're going to go for your second home birth, which I'm really excited about. Like, oh God, I'm like kind of a little envious in a way. I think it's so cool, and I wish I was that badass. But I just think that we're so capable, and even when our bodies are weird or not agreeing with us, we have the potential. I just did a call with the doula, and we were talking about this, so I'm very excited about you saying that. And I wish we were told as women that we could do it. I wish that was the vernacular more than all the things that could go wrong, or you have endometriosis. This is going to be really hard for you. Like your body can't handle it. You have polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS. We don't know how this is going to be. Like this is scary. And you're like, but is it? But is it? Like I wish that we were told as women, like, you're a fucking badass. You can fucking do it. You're gonna push that baby out. You can do it at home. You can do it in a car. You can do it in a parking lot. Like I wish that was what we were told. And maybe it would be easier for a lot of other people. That's my 2 cents. That's my opinion. So,
And it is a bit more that way here.
you think, yeah, you think
Yeah,
so?
definitely. Like birth is seen as much more of a natural thing in New Zealand than it is in the States. You know, in the States, I was always raised to believe that birth was scary and birth was a medical event and birth was risky when it's the most natural thing in the world. I mean, that's what the female body was created to do. And now with all of the interventions and everything around birth in the States, like it's so crazy. Like the States have one of the highest mortality rates around birth for developed countries as anywhere else in the world.
The
And
highest, yes.
yeah, and moving to New Zealand and like, okay, so my partner, he was a home birth. His sister is a home birth. His mom was in the home birthing community. My sister-in-law is like she free birthed her baby. She's like a whole nother level of badass. But it just seemed as something so much more natural and normal and not medicalized. Obviously, there is medical assistance there if you need it. But for a woman that doesn't have any risks and doesn't have any complications, like there's no reason why you should be anywhere other than where you're most comfortable to be in that primal state. When you get in a hospital and you're around these bright lights and people with other agendas and people that you don't know, like I just feel like from the research I've done and from my own experience, that it just slows things down versus being in an environment where you're comfortable and the lights are dark and you know you have your support team that you know and that you trust, is so different than a lot of the hospital experiences that a lot of women find themselves in.
So are you inspired by those women for your own home birth with Sage?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was totally scared of birth. Like, yeah, being raised in the States and seeing all of the movies of the women screaming and, you know, American movies portraying childbirth is a terrible thing. It's not often actually like that. And yeah, I guess like I wasn't working during my pregnancy with Sage because I was in between visas. So I just had so much time to research and read books and just try to, you know, dig into what my fears were around childbirth and really be intentional about how I wanted to bring my baby into the world, which I'm super fortunate to have. Not everybody has all of that time and space to be able to do that.
True.
But yeah, I felt super inspired by home birth and the possibility of, and just the way that like the maternity care is set up in New Zealand, like you get a midwife. It's not, you know, that's like like midwives are the lead maternity caregivers here, not obstetricians who are surgeons, you know.
What?
Which I think
What?
which I think is like just huge. Like birth should be led by midwives. That's, you know, what they're trained to do. They don't, you know, do anything other than deal with pregnant women and babies. And yeah, I think that's like like one of the biggest steps in like feeling comfortable with home birthing is like, that's one of your options. You can, you know, go to a birth center, you can go to the hospital, you can go to the home birth. It's all an option. It's not seen as something that is alternative to where I feel like in the States, midwives and doulas and home births are still quite seen as like alternative or hippie or whatever.
Yeah.
Or irresponsible even. I feel like a lot of people
Not
view
medical caregivers.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of people view home birth as like an irresponsible choice when actually like if you don't have any prior conditions, you're setting yourself up to be in a really comfortable environment with minimal to no intervention. So you can just get out of your body, get out of your mind's way and like let your body do what it was made to do.
Did you have any complications with your first delivery? No?
I had an incredibly long labor. My labor was about 39 hours. And I don't think that I would have been able to stay at home and actually have the birth that I envisioned and have my home birth if it wasn't for the support of my doula and my partner. My partner was probably more comfortable with birth at that point than I was, which is not super common. I feel like, not to, you know, put them all in one category, but I feel like men can be quite scared about birth.
Yeah.
And my partner was not. He's still probably more comfortable with birth than I am, even after giving birth. But so that helped a lot. You know, I had a team that like really believed in me and really supported me even when things got hard. And yeah. So
You just posted
inspired by these women to try to have a home birth and try to get comfortable with it. You know.
Well,
a lot of work.
Sounds like it. And I was fortunate enough to be able to research a lot during pregnancy too, which is a gift. And I just saw an Instagram post that you put up about Sage's birth, and you have your husband, your partner there, and I think it's so nice that you are giving him credit and that he's so supportive, and that's incredible. Like to have that, like my husband was, he's my now husband. We weren't married when I gave birth to Declan because of my blood clots. He was terrified that something was going to happen to me. And he's like, no, we're going to the hospital. Like we can't risk it. We can't risk it. And in retrospect, Yes, 100%. He had the right idea and he had the best interest of me at heart. If I ever got pregnant again, which we are trying really hard not to, I would do it. I would do it differently. I don't think I could. He couldn't stomach a home birth. I don't know if I could, but I would definitely go to like a midwife as my primary caregiver for this, and I would
There's also like in between options between home
yes,
birth and birthing in a hospital. Like there's some really beautiful birth centers out there that, you know, make you feel like there's a little bit more support than maybe you would have at home. And
yes.
like quick transfers to hospital if there are risks.
But I do love that you're saying like in New Zealand, the midwife is the go-to. I think it's so important for women to know, especially in the States, that like this profession, I have a podcast about it from a past season. So you can check that out. Dr. Nikki, she's amazing. But these women have been doing it for centuries, millennia. Like midwives and doulas have been around since women have been giving birth. That's like hieroglyphs on a wall. So we have to like respect that. And women supporting women is really, really important, which is how this whole podcast came about. But anyway, so we're just going to skip ahead to my next question, which is, how has motherhood changed you? That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, how has it not really? Like, a totally different person. Like, I feel like, when you're preparing for your pregnancy and preparing to be a mom, you prepare to meet this, tiny new baby, but you don't realize that you're about to meet a total new you as well. So yeah, it's my life now, I went from this traveling free spirit, doing, just going with the flow, doing whatever I felt like doing, to, stepping into the role of mama and being the, primary caregiver for another human. Like it's pretty big. It's been amazing. It teaches me more and more every day, more patience, more compassion.
Totally.
Teaches me how to try to, use all of my Zen, yogi, meditation techniques when things are getting real. I love Sage to death, but she has not been an easy baby by any means. She's she's highly sensitive and just like very irritable. So
You're so neutral. Like you're so easy. Like you're just like a chill human. So
they always say like, chill people will have chill babies. That is not true. My partner is also very chill, and our little love is not. But it's that's just her, and I accept her for all that she is and all that she is teaching me. I guess one thing about motherhood that I took for granted, like, you hear the saying, it takes a village to raise kids, and I do not have my village here. My partner is great support and his family is amazing, but not having that like constant support around, it's so hard. It's way harder than I thought it would be. So yeah, that's changed me in a way of just being able to, be more resilient and figure things out on my own, because I mostly have to do that most days.
And then take the help when it's presented too.
Yeah.
I'm not a good help taker, so asking for it and accepting it for me personally is really hard. So I say that I was 1,500 miles away from friends and family, so not quite the gap that you have. But when Declan was born, I struggled. Like, it was really hard for me, especially as someone who didn't want to have kids. And then I had this new identity and responsibility. I struggled with it. And again, my son is incredible, so I'm never going to wish him away. But the person I had to become immediately. Whew, gosh, that was a transition that I couldn't really grasp until like later. Like I wish that, I hope men listen to this and take this in the spirit that it's meant. Women don't get to think about it. When we find out we're pregnant, we change like that. We don't get a choice. I mean, we do have a choice, but if you want to be responsible, you can't drink, you can't smoke, you can't do drugs. Like, and I'm not advocating any of those things, but equally, a glass of wine,
Yeah.
2 glasses of wine. Suddenly it changed. You don't have to be an alcoholic to enjoy 2 glasses of wine. I was studying for my second level sommelier when I found out that I was pregnant. Like, so a woman has to change intrinsically, organically, instantaneously. Men don't have to do that, and it's tough. So I wasn't ready for that transition. So that was, again, part of the reason this podcast came about, is because, you know, this mothering journey is so different. And it depends on where you are. Like, as you see, like, you have such a unique situation being in New Zealand where versus what we have in the United States. And you don't have your friends and family, which is immeasurable. Like, I get that. Now we lived in Baltimore for 2 years before we moved to Florida, and having friends and family was great, but it wasn't the lifestyle we wanted. Like, we wanted to be around family, but the kind of life we wanted to live by the ocean with our son, and my husband's on a visa too, so we can only go so many places. We had to be in the States, and we could do that in the Florida. So I hear you. Like, it's so tough.
To tick all of those boxes, you know, there's so many parts of New Zealand that there's so many boxes that New Zealand ticks that, you know, being back home in the States wouldn't tick. I feel so much more safe having a family here than I feel like I would back home. Like, it just feels a bit easier. You know, school shootings aren't a thing here. I just, in general, feel a lot safer about raising a family here. So I guess, like, you give and you take for your priorities.
That's a good statement.
Like, you know, the grass is always greener on the other side. I'm like, it would just be so much easier if I, like, had more support and had some people that I could, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have people that I can call on, but, you know, my family and friends that I had in Colorado would be those people that I wouldn't have to call on. They would just know how to show up, and I am terrible at asking for help as well. So I really struggle to do that. It's not like I don't have anyone that I can call on, but just like having those people that, like, know when to support you without being asked is irreplaceable.
It's hard. It's hard to be an expat. It really, like, we can just, like, lean into that for a second, like, to drive that point home a little bit. Like, it's different. My husband, we're recording this on a Saturday for anybody who cares, and my husband's a huge Premier League fan. He can just go out and watch a match like he could in the UK. He's got to Google a bar, research the bar, and this is just a dumb example about just how it'll be different. Like, football, by that I mean soccer, but football here in America is so different. So you extrapolate that out to what you're experiencing in New Zealand. It's a dumb little thing like football, but, like, how often do you see a rugby match? Like, it starts with those little things, and there's subtle cultural differences that you don't realize until you don't have them.
Yeah.
And it's tricky. It's really tricky. So I feel for you. It sounds like you're doing super well, though. And I love that you're being so resilient and embracing it. But also, like, you're going into your second birth with your second baby and another home birth. How are you feeling about that? Because that's not far away. That's coming so quick.
Yeah, it's coming, like, 35 weeks now. So Sage was born at, she was like 12 days late. I mean, I don't really believe in due dates per se, but she Yeah, she took her sweet time. I don't feel like this baby is going to stay in for that long. So yeah, just I'm feeling pretty good, feeling pretty ready. Still like, I definitely still have a lot of like deep-rooted fear that I think comes from growing up in America, and like I mentioned before, viewing birth the way that I always have until getting pregnant myself.
Totally.
So yeah, still trying to like dig in and unpack some of like what I am actually scared of. But a friend recently told me that, fear is not always a bad thing. It's how we, prepare our bodies and get through things. So I'm trying to step into that and embrace the fear instead of just trying to like totally get rid of it.
I like that.
But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Trying to make some time for me every day to check in with my body and do some yoga and do some breath work and
That's good. So good.
just prepare the body and prepare the mind. I was working most of my pregnancy this time around and keeping up with a toddler, and she does not sleep very well. She was on like five times a night wake ups until like a month ago. So it was a much busier pregnancy. I didn't have all of that time to just, research and take care of myself and do everything that I did my first time. But yeah, I stopped working like 3 weeks ago now. So I've really taken that time to turn inwards and try to work out the fear and the resistance that I'm feeling towards this birth. So yeah, still doing that on a daily basis. And yeah, feeling pretty ready. We've been really lucky in New Zealand that we haven't really experienced COVID like the rest of the world. We've had essentially 2 major outbreaks. One was like over a year ago when my first child was born. She was born in our first level 4 lockdown, so like everything's locked down aside from grocery stores and hospitals. So we are once again in level 4 lockdown. Yeah, only the second time. We pretty much had over a full year of just pretty much not having COVID at all, which was amazing. Yeah, so like, some fears around that of if, I'll be cleared for home birth in 2 weeks, but if I go into labor in the next 2 weeks, then there's a lot of restrictions at the hospitals. Around if my partner can come, Sage definitely can't come, and we don't have, a ton of support here. Cam's mom is planning to come down for the birth, but as of right now, there's no flights going and you can't travel. So, yeah, there's some stuff around there that I'm just trying to manifest the next 2 weeks without, going into labor.
Deep breaths, deep breaths, deep breaths.
Into home birth. And so, yeah, just trying not to think about that too much and, having a backup plan in case anything does happen.
Gosh.
Yeah, so feeling pretty good.
Well, I mean, by the time this airs, you'll probably have had the little nugget too, and you don't know what the sex is, right?
No, I don't.
That's so
very
exciting.
Tuesday, but there's not that many surprises in life anymore. So, yeah, for both of our babies, we have kept it a surprise. I was certain that Sage was a girl, and I was right about that. I'm not as sure this time, but I definitely think it's a boy. The pregnancy has just been so much different than Sage's one, so I will be quite surprised if it's a girl, but like I have no preference at all.
Oh, I love that. I wanted a boy, and I'm grateful to have it, but I never thought of myself in boy form.
Yeah.
So he is so much like me. What that was more testosterone. I'm like, oh shit. Think about that. Okay. All right, we're gonna get into.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go, girl.
So you don't ever really like think about how sassy you are until you have a little mini you running around, and it's like, right.
That's why I didn't want a girl, because I was like, me in small form is gonna be horrible. But I like Declan does this thing where it's like, you have to listen to me.
Yep.
I'm the mom. You have to listen to me. Like, first of all, where'd you get this from? Second of all, like, and he's
little people.
I'm just like, I just want to bang my head. I'm like, come on, kid. Like, but like, so he is defiant, and he's amazing. He's a really good already, which he gets from his father. Definitely not me. Definitely not me. I'm easily persuaded. But to your point, like, you don't have any control. You just got to do it. You just got to like lean into it and I thought I wanted a boy, and I'm glad I have a boy, but damn, like I did not think about that, like really. Anyway, before you go, I have just a few more questions, which I call the nada. What is the most useless information you had from anybody while you were pregnant?
I would say it's been this time around. I've actually gotten some pretty like annoying advice when I've gone to see a GP doctor here on 3 separate occasions. I don't have a regular GP here because I've just not really found one that I've connected with that much, and they don't have pediatricians here.
Fair.
So we just see like, whatever doctor is available really. And 3 different times during this pregnancy, I've gone in to take Sage-In for something, and the doctor has commented on how I'm still breastfeeding Sage, and they're like, oh, like, how are you still doing that? Like, your body's not going to be able to keep up with that. Like, that's not going to be good for the new baby.
Interesting.
3 separate times, 3 separate doctors, when I did not ask anyone's advice at all. This is my journey. Plenty of women tandem feed, plenty of women feed twins at the same time. So I would say that is the, number one unwanted advice that I've been given.
By medical professionals nonetheless. And she's not even 2. Let's like put that in there. She's not even 2. And a lot of people breastfeed around the world past 2.
Yeah, so she's 16 months old. Our goal was 2 months, and having another baby hasn't really changed that. She still wants to breastfeed. I still want to breastfeed her. I'm very excited for the tandem feeding experience. It can be really bonding for both of them, and I'm really looking forward to it. So
that's a really good
negative advice. We're ready.
That's a good topic we should circle back to. Tandem feeding, if you're comfortable in a few months, because I'd like to see how that's going, because I will never have that experience. And I think it's really important to highlight that. It's not right for everybody, but I like the fact that you say you're excited for it and you're embracing it, and it's right for you. And that's what matters. Like, it's right for you and your family. And I'm sure that she's still getting all of her nutrients and her solids and all that stuff, But what's wrong with, I had a friend who breastfed till her daughter was like 3.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't see the problem, but that's just me. That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits in feeding past 12 months. If it's right for you and your family.
Well, yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
What do you wish you would have been told about motherhood?
I guess the one thing that I wasn't really prepared for is like the drastic roller coaster that you can go on in one day. Like 1 second you can be like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I love motherhood. This is like, I'm in my element. We're connecting. I'm loving this. To being like, oh my God, I'm so alone. Who am I? I don't even recognize myself in the mirror anymore. To being like, why have you been screaming for 20 minutes? Like, I just want to make some food, and I can't put you down, and I can't, get anything done. So I just and I thought that would kind of fade as she's gotten older, but if anything, I feel like it's gotten even more, there's just such a big spectrum of my emotions in one day that I wasn't really prepared for.
And now that you're pregnant, that's totally, I mean, I don't have a second kid, so I don't know that but now you're in a different mental capacity, and she's getting older, and she's gaining her mental capacity, and yours is shifting because you're pregnant. That's a tricky thing to navigate, and no one talks about that. That's the nuances that are required for caring for a toddler in general. And then you add the layer of you're gonna birth another baby, that's a
pregnancy and sleep deprivation of
yes. To piggyback on that, no one told me that even when my son would sleep through the night that I wouldn't.
No, you don't. Do you still are they okay? They've not woken up,
or because he used to wake up at 1 and 3. I'm up at 1 and 4 all the time, and you're like, wait, he stopped breastfeeding a year ago, 2 years ago. How old is my kid? I don't even know. right after his first birthday, we stopped breastfeeding. And no one says how tough that, like, you still don't sleep. And now you'll have an excuse because you'll be tandem feeding, you'll be up every few hours, depending on how this kid is, but you're just like, whew.
I'll sleep again. Like one day we'll look back.
Yeah, when they're like, when the youngest one is 5, you'll sleep again. Yeah. Amen to that. I don't know how many you want to have, but shit. Okay.
Please probably ask, but we'll see.
I mean, 2's a great number, personally. I would love to adopt a second one, but well, that's a different topic for a different day. Do you have any unsolicited advice? Like advice, something you wish somebody would have told you before you started your mothering journey, or that you've learned as a mom so far?
Yeah, I guess like, burn all the books and don't Google and don't like, I think that even when you really intentionally try not to, like, you inevitably compare your baby and yourself and your journey to what you see on Instagram and what you see on Facebook and what what the other moms are doing and what the other babies are doing. And then you start to question, like, well, am I doing something wrong? Why doesn't my child sleep? Like, and I think it's like a really like hard habit to not get into with, the way that social media is now, of like portraying this, beautiful life and not any of the hard parts of it. And it's hard for everyone, regardless of where you are. Like, I think that being a mom and going through that transition, and every, transition after you have your baby, because they're constantly changing, it's just hard, and comparing yourself is just, not gonna make it any easier.
I love that you said that. Every transition is different. And the phase I am with Declan at 3.5 is similar, yet will be different for Sage.
Yeah.
And it will be different for your second, whatever that child is, male, female, whatever. And he is different from my friends' kids. We had all this advice about, oh, he's going to be a nightmare. Declan has his voice, and we give him a space for that voice, because for me, I didn't have a voice when I was a kid, and I want my son to be comfortable in his emotions more than I am, more than I ever was. And I want to give him an opportunity to be a thoughtful, introspective, emotionally intelligent child. Something I was never afforded, but my parents could only do for me what they were given, and now that I know better, I can do better for him, and so I think it's so important. I love that you said that. Like, I got to give him the opportunity to be who he is and there's still boundaries. He doesn't get to dictate everything, but he gets to tell me how he feels, and he gets to tell me what's wrong, and he gets to tell me what he thinks, and he gets to tell me what he wants. And I'm not going to give him candy for breakfast. Like, that's not okay. Like, no one needs that much sugar in a day. However, if he wants a treat a couple of times a week with dinner, I can advocate for that. So it's just, I love the way you position that. I think that's so smart. Like, you got to give space to the kids and for yourself too. And I love that you brought up your yoga journey and how that's benefited you as well. I think that's so important. Like, like Lamaze, like the thing for forever, but let's be real here. I mean, I didn't take Lamaze, so I'm not slandering it. However, that yoga breath and that deep breathing, I think is really important.
Again, it helps a lot during pregnancy, it helps a lot during labor, and it helps a lot during motherhood, because sometimes you just need to like take a minute and breathe and be like, all right, this is all right.
No, amen to that. So, Laura, thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time. I know how precious it is, especially in these last few weeks of birth, upcoming to birth, with your toddler and your partner. And when we're recording this, you're in a lockdown. So all of the things are happening. And it means so much that you gave me a little bit of your life right now. So thank you so much. This is the Mama News Not a Podcast. Thank you for tuning in and have fun learning all the things you didn't know you needed to know. And we will definitely give you an update on Laura's birth journey whenever it happens, okay? So take care. Until next time.